I think it's more that he either ended up corrupted by the demon's presence, or that he ended up coming around to their side. And I honestly feel it's probably the first one, the corruption. But the weird thing is, we don't see Amadeus anywhere. He's supposed to be the big bad running the whole thing, and from memory, we don't actually see him, do we?
No. For all we know, he could very well be just the same succubus that showed up in the past.
The weird thing is that incubus and the succubus, they just had names, incubus and succubus. They weren't named as an actual name. They weren't called Amadeus, they weren't called something else.
Yeah. Shit, that reminds me, we missed the boss. We completely missed that experiment 13. Fuck.
Yeah,
whatever.
Might go back and we'll. How about this? You go back and you can overlay it over us talking. That way people can see. Because it gives a viewer something to look at.
Fuck it. It's not important. He would die in like 2 attacks.
Good point. Here's the thing. A lot of the music was really good. As we kept saying, a lot of this music is really good. A lot of the pixel art as well, barring certain characters, was also very good. And I'm not even... The two at the end, the queen and her lover, they looked like they were trying to go... Like the designers were trying to go for an older look to make these characters more older and more venerable to contrast against the younger of the soldiers, of the main character, a lot of people, and they just kind of failed. But the weirdest one for me was... Fuck, what was his name? The first soldier we found, the one that does have a feminine sprite.
Sakis.
Sakis, thank you. Does have a feminine sprite work, because it does look like he has breasts. And it is very odd, to say the least. I get that they're meant to be enlarged pectoral muscles, showing the fact that he works out, but the rest of his body doesn't match up to that.
Yeah, the first time I met him, I thought it was a woman until somebody referred to him as he, and I'm like, what do you mean he? He has breast.
He's very strange. Delving into the characters, I'm just gonna come out and say it. The main character is kind of a boring blank slate.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be just like what's the word? It's like you're supposed to relate with the character, like you're.
So you're talking
like a self-insert, maybe.
Yeah. So like there have been good self-insert characters, like Twilight, for instance. For as much shit as we give it, that is a good self-insert character, even if it doesn't make much sense, because the character is just such a fucking blank slate. Which is also, funnily enough, why it didn't translate into movies well, because you can't have a movie with a blank slate character. And similarly, you can't have a game with a blank slate character either. But the thing is that she wasn't a blank slate. Her character was clearly established. She had very clear emotions. She had very clear motivations. She was just kind of dull. Her overarching motivation was, I need to kill the person who killed my family. And then it seemed like on a dime, the moment she found out that she could do something different, she decided, I'm going to go over here and do this instead. As opposed to having the character work the way through and look at all 3 options, and then have the player decide which one that the player, they themselves would prefer, and they themselves would think this woman would go for. But as is, I honestly feel that the way that we did it, she just turned on a dime and said, fuck it, I don't care about my main driving motivation anymore. I'm going to go off and kill this guy in the hope it'll do something. And it only just kind of worked out in her favor because the Sandman yanked her into the dream realm and tried to kill her. Then got, like, 3-shotted, I want to say. He went out like a bitch.
Yep, that's pretty much how it works with this character. She just decides, I can go a little bit further back in time now. I guess I'll just do that and kill whatever I find there.
And there's no input from anybody else about that, because the only person who knows about the actual time travel stuff is Nestil or something. We just called her Nestle the entire time. I can't remember her actual name.
Let's just go with that.
I am useless with names. Like, I'm very... Okay, developers, if you're listening to this, I'm very sorry I can't remember anybody's names. I am useless with names. Utterly fucking useless with names. However, like... that kind of stuff, like the only person who knew about the time travel stuff was her mother, who we only saw through the flashbacks from the memories, and Nestle. And Nestle didn't input into this decision very much at all. It was very much a case of, in order to understand the main character's decision, you would have had to gone through all of the side questing stuff in order to be able to witness all of the lore about what the evil big guy of the Velti people was going to be doing, the leader of the Majocracy.
Oh shit,
was
that
doing
actually
to his
reminds
people.
me. That reminds me of something.
What's up?
If you don't do the side quest, you can still end up doing the ending where you go back to the past to your friends, which you don't even talk with.
That is kind of funny. But it's very much a case of, I get that not every game is going to have branching choices and so forth, and I get that not every game is going to have the side questing things change what's going to happen. Like, not every game needs to be Mass Effect, basically. We're doing all the loyalty missions and ranking up and seeing all the conversations means that they survive at the end. And that affects the ending scenes of all 3 games. Like, I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking is the main, like, we as players, we need to be able to understand the main character's motivations, whether we go for 100% of the collectibles and side quests or none. If you just blow through the main storyline, that ending, it just feels like she turned on a dime. The only way she'd possibly decide, maybe if I go back in time and kill this specific person, I might be able to broker peace, would be if you went through all of the side quests and got all the lore, saying, at the end, maybe this is a good idea. That's the only reason. And it's just even with us having done all that, there was still this massive thing which he just kind of turned on a heel and went, I'm going to do this now. And it was just jarring.
Yeah, I'm just going to go kill this emperor that I know nothing about.
Well, it's like if you did nothing about all the side quests, you know nothing about him beyond he's kind of a bad person, but you don't know the extent of his crimes. And...
It's not even that. It's strangers told me he's a bad person. They must be right.
Yeah. But not only that, but let's examine that for a second. You have no other. The strangers are the only people who have told you this guy is evil. Let's be perfectly blunt here. He's literally Hitler. He's trying to establish a dominant race over and subjugate everybody else. He's literally Hitler trying to create his version of an Aryan race and subjugating everybody else. Literally. But it's not even subtle.
But they have only the input of strangers. For all we know, they could have ulterior motives.
And killing the Emperor, that is the most pathetic and stupid thing you could do. Because now you've got an entire Majocracy, all of whom are going to be vying for the Emperor's power.
Yeah, of course. That's just gonna make things worse.
Let's just be perfectly blunt here. Let's relate it back to more modern politics. If you killed Hitler, even if you went back in time and killed Hitler, it very likely wouldn't change events the way that you think they would change.
It might
if
make
you
them
killed
worse.
This emperor, it could make them even worse. Because can you imagine, like, Hitler was moderate compared to people like fucking Goebbels. What was that guy who escaped to Argentina and was doing experiments on twins? Like, there was a lot of sick people along the Nazi party, and all of them were effectively celebrities because of how fucked up it was. Imagine if one of those got power instead. He'd make Hitler look like a fucking daycare leader. And that's my main problem with the driving motivation of, I need to kill this specific person. Because you're not solving any of the issues. Let's say you kill the emperor that we killed. That's not going to do anything to stop it being a Majocracy. That's not going to do anything to get rid of all the people in middle management who all believe this is the way this is going to work. That's not going to do anything to change the views of the people, both the oppressed and the oppressors, who believe this is the way things are. And not only that, but you are not addressing any of the actual societal issues. 5 years after this chick decided to do all this, guarantee you it'll just descend into anarchy again. Because she didn't establish and she didn't fix all this.
Well, we kind of had a glimpse of that already.
I know, but let's be perfectly blunt here. That's an idyllic thing, and that's purely because she became the god of time and was able to literally go back and forth in time, fixing everything, no matter what she needed to do.
Oh
If
no,
she had
I
just
meant
killed
something
him-
different actually.
Oh,
We
go
had
for
a
it.
glimpse of how this time traveling bullshit wasn't really working out in her favor when she beat the shit out of Elana. Because,
Yeah, it really wasn't.
because at that point she's like, I'm gonna change everything, it's gonna be nice and peaceful. Then we go back to the present time and it's still the same old shit. Just slightly
it's-
different.
It's very much a case of like, I'm not going to say, oh, there's massive plot holes, because the plot kind of wrapped itself up in a nice neat little bow, and a lot of the plot holes are really only there because of people not reading the lore and people not doing all the side quests. That's where a lot of the plot holes come into it. However, this one's just massive. Killing the leader of a nation. Even if you go back in time and kill the leader of a nation, it's not going to help the situation the way you think it is. Because how long have those people been oppressed as a metrocracy? For the kids and for young adults, this is probably all they're ever going to know. And no matter what you do, you're never going to be able to get them out of that mindset because it's just ingrained in them. The older people, it's definitely ingrained in them. The change is not going to work. You might be able to help the kids, but that change is not going to work at the upper echelons. And a lot of the middle management and so forth is made up of that older people who this has been their way all their life. They're not going to change. Literally, the only way to do it is to literally kill everyone in the government, build it up from the very base, fixing every single societal issue. And that's just never going to work. It would make for an interesting game, though. Like, not kidding, it would make for an interesting game. I'd love to see that.
Well, that's
just
one way to do it.
But it just wouldn't work.
No.
But for me, I guess it's time to address the elephant in the room, and that is the side characters.
Okay.
I'll start. Just in case people have forgotten, I'm going to reiterate, I'm bi, okay? And I have a massive amount of issue with a lot of stuff the LGBT has changed into over the years. However, I didn't mind these characters. A lot of, you go on the Steam like forums, there's a lot of people being both kind of homophobic and really homophobic. And I couldn't give a shit. The one character that did genuinely kind of annoy me was that last final scene, because it just felt a bit too ham-fisted with them all there basically discussing their sexuality. And I get that scenes like that happen IRL,
Yeah, of course.
but at the same time it just felt a bit too much. We're going to force this in because we want representation, we want tokenism, we're going to force this into it. The transgender woman, Nestle, I actually really enjoyed her character. The entire thing could easily have been dealt with very badly, but they didn't bring it up even until near the end. They didn't finish the they didn't finish the thread that they could have gone through, but they did bring it up, and they did bring it up in a respectful manner. They didn't literally have her go, I can't remember what fucking game it was, but there was a game recently that a bunch of people got pissed off about it, recently being within the last 3 years, where a character literally basically walked up and said, this is me, I'm transgender, this is my dead name, which you never fucking say your dead name, by the way. Actually, wait a second, do you know what a dead name is, Walter?
No?
A dead name for a transgender person is your birth name. So for example, let's say I'm transgender, my birth name is Alex, that's my actual name. And the name that I prefer to be called is whatever it is, but you always call the birth name if they don't continue to go by it, if it's not like a unisexual name like a Jesse or an Ashley or something like that, as a dead name. And there was a character in, I think it was Mass Effect Andromeda, that literally just came up and basically dead named themselves in 5 minutes, and that's never done. And they handled this character in this game that we just did very respectfully. A couple of the other ones you kind of went, okay, how does this inform your character? But in that one, it actually did. The rest of them, I'm like you, I couldn't give a shit. But I'm just like, okay, why did you feel the need as creators to do this? Because it very much felt like tokenism for some of them. It very much felt like we're going to have this in for the sake of ticking a box more than for the sake of fleshing a character out. which is one of the things that does piss me off, by the way. It genuinely pisses me off. But yeah, what about you?
I don't have a lot of input, to be honest.
This kind of shit, yeah. Like, this kind of shit is mostly just identity politics stuff. And I'm kind of a bit more immersed in that because of my identity.
Since I don't particularly give a shit, the only thing I can really say is I think it's harmless because you need to go out of your way to actually get any of this in the first place. So if you don't actually care about any of this, don't do the side quests. That's it. And if you want to do the side quest, well, be forewarned, you will encounter things that you might not really like. I sure didn't like this, but that's just me. I just don't care about these kind of things. I don't want them in my games. That's it.
Yeah, I'm very much in the camp of I don't want them forced into my games. There was a couple of points in this one where it did genuinely feel a little forced. And that's my main issue.
For me, it just doesn't do anything. I just don't see how it adds anything in particular to the game. Like, sure,
it adds representation, and I will be the first to admit that a lot of LGBT plus people do want more representation, but there's a difference between representation and tokenism. And some of this did kind of feel token.
I guess it's just I don't care about the preferences of one's sexuality. It's just keep it to yourself and we'll be the best of friends.
It's very much a case also of they didn't actually need to bring it up.
Yeah, it's really random how we just bring it up to a total stranger, like, oh, hello, I like penis. Okay.
Yeah, there was literally one of them where it was kind of mentioned like that. The rest of them, they did kind of bring it up as you got to know them. But that first one was kind of jarring, and that's why we made a bit of fun of it.
Yeah, don't mind my exaggerations, by the way.
No, but that first one was a little bit jarring, and that kind of... It set a tone that the rest didn't follow, is how I would describe it. The rest of them, you find out their different sexualities, and in one case their gender identities through conversation with them and through developing of characters. But that first one was very strange. It was very much like, yeah, hi, I'm gay. And don't get me wrong, I've met people like that. I've met people where the first words out of their mouths are basically going to be their sexuality or their gender identity. And it fucking annoys me. I'm not in the camp that Walder is in of keep it to yourself. I'm in the camp of I don't fucking give a shit. Unless I outright ask, I don't fucking give a shit.
Yeah, I feel if somebody...
Be who you want to be.
I feel if somebody introduced to me that way, I would just tell them, so what?
Yeah, that was actually how my actual response to... I got dragged into a call with two of my friends, this was a few years ago, and one of them was basically giggling and going, the guy whose nickname is Santa, Santa's gay, Santa's gay, Santa's gay, and it was so fucking giddy about it. I'm just like, who the fuck cares? And I will admit part of that is the fact that they fucking woke me up at 4 a.m. and dragged me into a call to tell me this shit. I'm like, I don't fucking care. I really don't.
Yeah, it's like...
Your sexuality is your own fucking business, so long as you're not hurting anybody else. Who gives a shit?
That's my mentality about this. If you don't push your shit in my face, I won't bother you with my bullshit.
As we say, it's like, there were a couple of points where it felt a little bit forced. But all in all, they did a good job representing those characters.
Overall,
which I am thankful for.
Overall, I think the whole thing here is just harmless.
Yeah, and it was so overblown. Because here's the thing, when you mentioned Timespinners to me, I'd never heard about it before.
Yeah.
About a week later, I started hearing about it because a bunch of people were screaming about either tokenism, either really good representation, or either really good tokenism sometimes, or just outright like being really strange about this game. I was like, what the fuck? So I looked into it, I'm just like, I don't care!
I encountered this game just randomly when I was just searching for stuff to wishlist, and one day I just bought it, I played it, I felt like it was a decent game, figured okay, I'll record this for the channel at some point. I was looking up some information about the game, and that's how I accidentally ran into the whole, I guess, drama. And that's when I realized, oh wow, people, I guess, give a shit.
people really give a shit about this stuff. And as I said, for me, my general philosophy is, I don't fucking care. I really don't. Your sexuality is your own goddamn business. You shouldn't be throwing it in anyone else's face. And that same goes for heterosexual as well as LGBT. Like, do not fucking discuss sex in front of me. I don't give a damn what sexuality you are. I don't want to fucking hear about it.
It also doesn't help that a lot of the times it's a very obnoxious topic to discuss with some people because they feel that they are superior, when in reality they're all on equal footing.
Yeah. Like, even we suffered from a little bit of that as well, even discussing this, but like, I was expecting to go into this game, like, I'd heard about all this controversy and I was looking at it, I was going into expect, like, every single person was like a Tumblr stereotype and so forth, like, every single person would basically introduce themselves by saying their gender and pronouns and so forth, because that's a lot of people made it out to be. And so I'm going into this going, oh, fuck, how bad is this going to be? And I was pleasantly surprised. As we said, apart from that first person, the rest of it was kind of harmless.
Yeah,
but then again, that pretty much sums up the entire fucking storyline, really. It's just
I didn't
kind
hear,
of harmless and slightly bland.
I didn't hear any of this controversy, I get, if you can call it like that, at all when I first found this. So when I first encountered all of this nonsense, I just thought, well, that's a bit annoying, and that's it. I didn't think much of it.
I went to look at the Steam reviews on it, and there were a couple that mentioned it. I'm just going, huh? Who fucking cares?
Yeah, it's just like,
It's
okay,
rude.
whatever, it's just a game, chill out.
And I know that we've probably spent by this point about 15 minutes on this one topic, but it is the way that the game has been framed by several of the reviewers, by several of the people playing it, by several of the people who both love the game and hate the game. It is a large topic for this particular type.
It's also a very overblown topic considering how unimpactful the whole thing in the game is.
It really didn't matter. Like, even if you loved the side quests and thought they were the greatest thing ever, it still didn't fucking matter.
To me,
they were all just fetch quests.
To me, the fact that the side quests were shit left bigger impact than the fucking characters.
Yeah.
Because the side quests were kind of lame. It's just like, collect this bear ass for me or whatever. Or kill these dudes.
Get 16 bear asses and 4 boar testicles for my stew.
Or kill some dudes in this one area. Okay, what?
I like that they even fucking named, like, yes, kill 7 bats. How many bats are out there? Well, probably a couple thousand. So you think doing 7 is gonna do something to it, do you?
Yeah, it's almost like they just took some side quests from an MMO. Like, I can get this from any other game out there that's probably gonna handle this better. Hell, even Hero Online probably handles it better, but that doesn't mean much.
Didn't Hero Online shut down? Something about being sued by one of the Marvel or DC companies?
No, that can't be it. Hero Online is about Chinese shit.
No, wait, no, I'm thinking of City of Heroes. My bad.
That's probably it.
City of Heroes. My bad. I'm an idiot.
But yeah, I don't see what else is there to say about the characters in the side quests. It's just
honestly, you can say, oh, the LGBT people in there were a travesty. Honestly, the biggest travesty for me was that the fucking game was kind of boring in the storyline.
For me, the biggest travesty is that Yorn was just an edgy teenager, and we didn't get to develop him.
Oh, here's the thing, I love edgy teenager people. They're so much fun to just mess around with.
He's just pointless. He's just there for like one scene.
He's literally there to be an asshat for one scene to establish a character that we never see again.
He's unimportant, much like all the other characters at the beginning of the game, except for the mother.
Let's be blunt here. Yorn was literally created as the edgy teen, both to juxtapose the more happy-go-lucky main character, as well as the main character's best friend, showing her in a positive light because she basically said, this happens so often, I'm going to make another cake, and show her resourcefulness. And that was literally the reason for that man's existence, aside from a plot point when it comes to the guy who went back in time and left his wife and son there, and came back in time and went to the woman and said, we were married in my timeline, I watched you die. Like that kind of thing. And that's his kid, apparently. Like, aside from
that character has so little attention drawn to him, and I think that's a waste. Because he could have been interesting.
That's such an interesting concept to explore. Even if you only explored it in flashbacks, that is so interesting. The writer in me is pissed they didn't explore that more.
Yeah, even I don't care about stories, but this is something worth considering because there's only one flashback that draws attention to the negative side effects of time travel, and it's an interesting idea. I'd like to see more, but the game doesn't care.
Honestly, the moment you mentioned time travel to me, I was genuinely going to be like, okay, this is going to be bad, isn't it, for the storyline? Because the moment you introduce time travel, so many things get fucked up.
I'm glad that the time travel here wasn't a detriment to the story, but it wasn't particularly strong either. You could have the same story without it.
It also wasn't helpful.
And from gameplay perspective, it was very useless, actually. How many times did I use the time freeze ability? Hardly any.
You used it a few times to get up some... You used it mostly in the laboratory at the end to freeze those turrets in place so you could jump up.
Yeah,
that's about it.
But that's about it. And they give you so many pickups to extend the fucking time freeze. But why? You never need to use it. They really
fucking do. That got ridiculous. Like, every other pickup was, stand up! I'm just sitting there going, you fucking asshole.
I maxed out my sand meter and I still have no idea where I can use it. For the boss fights? But what's the point? I can't hurt them when they're frozen.
Not only that, but you maxed out your sand meter and we're still fucking getting sand. Unless those sand things increase your sand by 1 fucking point, I don't see why there were so many of them.
This is why I feel that this game is overall fairly average. The things that they try to work with, they're not fleshed out enough.
No. The main character
is
needed
just
more
too
fleshing
short.
out. The start needed more fleshing out. The game needed more fleshing out. The story needed more fleshing out. The gameplay is solid, but gameplay does not support a game if your story is honestly kind of generic, really.
I mean,
as this one, you started with the generic, I'm going to go back in time and kill this guy plot. And that, when she got thrown far back in time, that was honestly when the plot was strongest, because you got to see, okay, what is she going to do? And then she just hopped back into her present time, and you're just sitting there going, alright then. That was a wasted thread.
Yeah, they could have developed it into something other, like maybe the evil guys aren't evil at all. Maybe there's some kind of conspiracy that nobody's letting you on.
Maybe it was the demons all along.
Maybe the Sandman is just a piece of manipulative shit. Like there's so many things you could do with a time traveling plot, and they had an established rule as well, so they at least avoided nonsense like, oh, they can time travel at will, but they don't do this because of some unknown reason. They had the rule set up, like, you time travel, but you erase yourself from history. That's alright. We can work from there. But then...
Do you think maybe it's because they knew about the Sandman? And they knew that constantly going like back and forth through time as the main character did would screw it up, and that's why they only ever went back in time to the point where they could warn their people and have them move?
If that's the case, it's never mentioned in any kind of thing. Hell, they don't even mention where they got the fucking Timespinner from.
I'm honestly probably giving them more credit than they were. with that idea, honestly, I'm probably giving them a bit too much credit.
I don't know. All I can really say about this game is that it was. I'm not regretting the purchase, but I'm definitely not gonna go out of my way to get the rest of the achievements. Unless I feel particularly bored, because I don't see the point. I've already seen everything the game has to offer.
Multiple times.
Yeah, so I have nothing to gain.
Here's the thing, this is why for those of you curious, this is why Walder and I kind of work so well together. Walder is very much focused on mechanics. I focus a bit more on story. I've got a creative writing background. I have basically written a book. I've got to go back and rewrite the silly thing because there's just a few things in there that I don't want. And I started work writing a full fleshed out world of a game. I've written multiple campaigns, etc., etc. That's why I focus so much on story, because it's my bread and butter. For me, the gameplay was fine. It looked honestly really interesting. A lot of the combinations with the different bowls that I've been seeing on things like the TV Tropes page when they're mentioning it, and other places that I was looking while this was all going on, they looked really interesting. This is genuinely a game that I would love to pick up and play if I was into this sort of stuff. However, the one major point for me was the storyline is that it's relatively generic. It picks up a couple of points. It's relatively generic. A couple of the things in it do feel not exactly shoehorned in, but just kind of feel very sudden. The main character's turn to go, okay, instead of doing what I was going to do, I could do this instead, felt very sudden. The Sandman plotline felt like it just came out of nowhere, because in order to get it, you need to get all three of the gears. And once you got all three of the gears, which you require the APOS get, which is right at the end of the game, unless you know or want to go back and find out what's going on, you're going to just barrel through those straight to the game and kill your father. Because your father's just upstairs, really.
Yeah.
And so unless you go, it's a card, I want to see what it does, you're not going to go back and you're not going to get the gears. You're not going to get the calibrations. You're not going to get all three of the gears to be able to calibrate it to go further back in time than you already are at. You're not going to see any of that at all because you bypassed it. However, even if you get all those gears, it is such a turnaround to going, this guy is the main antagonist, to go, well, maybe this guy's the main antagonist and this guy's supporting him. Or this guy's the main antagonist and this guy's just this big evil bad that we need to deal with in regards to the Sandman. It was so out of fucking nowhere. It was so jarring. The Sandman plotline, it very much reminds me of Soma a little bit. In Soma, there's a whole deal of, basically there's a shit ton of really cool philosophical stuff, and then they have monsters all around the place. And towards the end of Soma, you literally basically go into a room, press one button labeled resolve shitty monster subplot, and then you keep going to the finish. And I'm only slightly exaggerating there. It really is that abrupt. And that's very much what this felt was to me. The Sandman felt like a convenient out for people who didn't really want to go after your father, or who really didn't think that killing, let's call him what he is, killing Hitler would fix it. This felt like a very much a convenient out for those players. And even then, it just kind of came out of nowhere. As far as I remember, it might have been mentioned elsewhere, but I don't remember it being mentioned in any of the documents, any of the memories, any of the conversations, any of the other stuff that we saw all throughout. It really did only come up once you collected those gears. And I feel it's just so weak because of that, the whole storyline, especially the ending. The ending just kind of feels like, okay, we've been cruising at 60 this whole time. I'm gonna just put my pedal to the floor and see what happens. And it feels like the entire third of the game got condensed down from a multi-hour long thing of build-up into like 20 minutes. And it pisses me off.
The Sandman just feels kind of like lazy shit.
Yeah. Feels like, especially that final phase of him, that feels like insert climax here. It very much felt like we need to have some kind of thing that's monstrous for the sake of having the end boss be monstrous. Because you've got Hitler and you've got effectively semi-Hitler. We need another monstrous character in order to round out this trio.
I don't see why you specifically need a godlike character either. You could just have some otherworldly creatures instead.
I get why they needed the godlike character, though. That's one of the things I do get. It is to have her succeed. Because when you kill your father, you succeed him on the throne. That's one of the things that they brought up. When you kill your father, you succeed him on the throne, and you try your best to fix shit.
You actually
When you
don't
kill
even
the
have
god,
to. You don't even
you don't
have
have
to take the throne after you kill the guy.
when you kill the god, when you kill the Sandman, you become the ruler of dreams and of time. I don't know why he's a ruler of time. You'd think that would be Father Time, basically. But because you become the ruler of time, you're able to fix all of your mistakes. You're able to go back to the very start and fix every single mistake in sequence to ensure everyone has the best ending. And that's why I said during one of the last cutscenes, it feels like that Emperor is going to come from the left field to just have them be family for the sake of having a very, very saccharine, we need a happy ending here.
I'm surprised they didn't do that, actually.
I'm genuinely surprised they didn't do that. I'm genuinely thankful that they didn't do that, because that undercut a fuck ton of stuff that they were building up.
Why
that
not?
was my main issue.
Why can't he become a family man?
Because he didn't view her as family. If you go, unless you're going to go back through and have them be together from the start, he didn't view her as family, he viewed her as property. It even said during one of the flashbacks, "You're mine, you're both mine," or something like that.
He should have just gone home and become a family man.
Kid. And like, I will admit, part of that is on Selene. Is it Selene or Selene? I think it's Selene.
Selene.
Is on Selene for basically just doing a fling with him, not mentioning anything. Like, I do admit part of that is on her. But his reaction to it, like, fucking let it go, man. If the chick hasn't come back 20 years down the line, fucking let it go. Like, Jesus, man. Let it go, settle down with a nice person, have some children.
No, now that I think about it, it feels kind of unrealistic.
Yeah, it really does. And that's one of my major issues with it. It just feels so...
It's like, you fucked a woman 20 years ago, she disappeared the night after, and you're still on to this? I don't know.
And not only that, but you're capable of recognizing her instantly 20 years down the line. Instantly recognize her, you drag her into a dinner, basically interrogate her for like an hour, and then the moment she says she doesn't want anything to do with you, which should have been inferred by the fact that she dumped your ass 20 years ago, you get pissy and you attack her people to the level that you did, because he personally went in there to kill Selene.
I don't personally believe that in the span of 20 years he hasn't even considered different women.
Maybe that's why he's so pissed off with leading them down a militarist path. Maybe it's because he hasn't gotten laid for 20 years and he's so fucking incel that he just said fuck it.
So ultimately
he's the ultimate incel.
So the plot basically boils down to this. The Empire attacks a random peasant planet of agriculture because of blue balls.
That's what kicks it off, yeah? Effectively, that's what kicks it off.
And then you time travel to prevent blue balls. In the most...
No, you don't even time travel to prevent blue balls. You time travel to fix the fallout from blue balls.
Yeah, but you do it in such a drastic way. You could just not have her go there?
Like, you could either not have her go there, or for fuck's sake, introduce the man to different women. Jesus Christ, people.
You could just have somebody else approach him.
I'm still laughing at the idea that he's the ultimate incel. That's just too funny to me. It's so funny.
I think the more we talk about the plot, the dumber it gets, so we should probably wrap up.
Here's the thing, there's not plot holes. There's not really that many plot holes. The problem with the plot that as it is, it doesn't actually make a lot of sense, because so many of the characters don't give certain information unless you try for it, meaning that if you learn them as they're happening, like you learn it for the thing with Genza, it just kind of comes out of left field.
The plot is filler.
Plus the fact the plot is filler, yeah. It effectively acts as filler for the gameplay, as something to give the gameplay purpose.
Well, if they wanted to do that, they should have just gone the route of Dark Souls or Salt and Sanctuary.
Agreed, honestly. like, did I like the game? Yeah, it was interesting. But the longer that I think about it, and in particular the storyline and plot points, the less fucking sense it makes.
Yeah, it's just becoming more and more shitty plot-wise.
I mean, come on, we literally found out the entire plot was because of blue balls. Like, once you get to that point, there's no taking this thing seriously anymore.
No, it's over. So yeah,
and so is this review.
Basically, it's okay. It's a okay game, but plot is shit.
Once you start breaking, it's like I was reasonably invested in a lot of the plot until that last section, and now I'm just looking back going, "Fuck! It really was because of a one incel got blue balls." Jesus Christ!
Just delete this.
Fuck.
Oh yeah, and because you were fixing the fallout of blue balls, the Sandman just goes, delete this. Wow, he's an even bigger blue baller. God damn, this game.
Well, there's the review that you're going to leave on the Steam store. We worked out the entire plot is because one incel got blue balls. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I think I'm just giggling because it's 1:30 in the morning.
In the classical, infamously immortal words of Shakespeare, fuck this. Time travel is bullshit.
Have a good day, everybody. I'm gonna go drink myself to sleep.
Thank you for watching this bullshit thing, and next time we're definitely gonna do something a bit more gooder.
The incel got blue balls and committed shit aside.
Next time we're just gonna play.
Hilarious.
Next time we're gonna play Arcanum.
Have a good day, everybody. I'm gonna try and get sleep.
Volterolus did nothing wrong.
God fucking damn it, we really figured it out. One incel got fucking blue balls.